I would just like to know who's taping it, that's all.
Yeah, and do you know now?
No,
It doesn't matter if the public doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the public doesn't.
It's a public meeting, the public
Doesn't matter
cannot
who's
be
taking
kicked out of here, the public is allowed to record these meetings according to the Sunshine Law. I have the law in my hands.
You are entitled to attend, that doesn't mean you're entitled to take what everybody says.
Ma'am.
And the limousine committee last
Ma'am.
week ruled against it, just so you know.
Ma'am, the law, not me, says a board may not ban the use of non-disruptive recording
We
devices.
said non-destructive, that's all we said.
I want to try to maintain decorum today so that everybody can be heard. Has everybody heard this man's point? Because there were several people talking. Does anybody want to repeat what he said?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, can you repeat?
All I'm doing is reading the Florida law, Sunshine Law, which states that a board may not ban the use of non-disruptive recording devices. It's not me, it's the law.
Yeah, but I'd like to know who's recording it.
No, it's not here. Is there,
Who is the recording is what I'd like.
He's being
You already
public
asked that
record
question,
whatsoever.
she said his name, her name.
What's going on?
please, what?
Hey, maybe I fear for my life,
Hey.
you know.
Please, we need to maintain some order, or this meeting is going to be very unproductive and nobody will be able to be heard. The question is, the person who's recording, does anybody know what the rules or laws are in terms of identifying more than their name? She was kind enough to identify her by name. Is there affiliation that must be, or can the tag require it, or is the tag not permitted?
She satisfied the requirements for non-disruptive, she may record.
Okay. Then we will move on with the first item. That is the ordinance, Commissioner Moss's ordinance. Anybody on the tag want to start talking? Anyone want to say?
Through the chair, can I just expand what actually the ordinance says?
Please, thank you.
Commissioner Moss's ordinance relates to taxicab rates and credit card processing system. What it actually does is expands the definitions of fares and rates to include surcharges, convenience fees, and other compensation. It adds a new definition for a violation, prohibits any types of additional fees for the uses of credit cards, debit cards, unless specifically approved by the board. It prohibits operators or chauffeurs from operating a taxicab where the taximeter or credit card processing system does not accurately display approved rates and fares. It imposes stricter penalties for overcharging, including a 30-day suspension after the first violation, a 60-day suspension after the second violation, and an automatic and permanent revocation of the chauffeur registration after a third violation. It prohibits drivers from collecting any surcharges or convenience fees for the usage of any debit or credit card system. So that's really what it actually says. And again, we would just like to hear.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Would that contradict, may I speak, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Would that contradict Commissioner Zapata's ordinance in any way, shape, or form?
No, it would not contradict that because what it does, Commissioner Zapata's ordinance, what it does is it provides for, it requires credit card users at both Miami International Airport and the Port of Miami. And what it would do is it would create a cash discount process. But remember, the cash discount would also have to be created through the board, through a resolution for a fare, through the fare system. And again, this clearly says that it prohibits drivers and chauffeurs from operating unless it does not accurately display the approved rates and fares. In Commissioner Zapata's ordinance, there is a requirement for us to submit a fare resolution.
Okay. So would we like to discuss that part of, well, I guess, that sounds pretty interesting to me. Does anybody have adverse to that?
I'm not adverse, but my question is, you said it limits right now Zapata's ordinance.
It doesn't, I didn't say limit, you asked does it contradict, and I said no.
But you said Zapata's ordinance is just for the airport and seaport. What if it is expanded to the full county? Will it have any effect, Commissioner Moss?
Commissioner Moss's ordinance addresses it's countywide. This is for a countywide ordinance. This is not dealing with just the airport and seaport.
So
Commissioner Zapata's ordinance requires credit card acceptance and usage at the ports.
So my question again, if Commissioner Zapata's ordinance is expanded to the full county, does Commissioner Morse's ordinance override it? Or it has no effect on it?
No, it has no effect on it.
Then I have no problem with the ordinance.
We have a lot of new people, and since she was so nice to give her name, I think it's appropriate for us to go around the tag and everybody on the tag to introduce ourselves, our name, and what our position on the tag, who we're representing.
Robert Singer, civilian.
Consumer.
Consumer.
Good afternoon, Rolando Aida with the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Taxicab Association.
Les Eisenberg, license holder?
Bill Samick, chair and consumer.
We don't know you.
Jerry Moskowitz, Coral Cab, Moscow Cab.
Monica Beltran, Aviation Department.
Heidi Jeselroy, Internal Services Department in the office.
Stephen Bobes, for hire transportation.
Teresa Gorilla, Ariana.
Joe Moore, for transportation,
We also have a guest who came down from West Palm Beach to participate here. He's the director of the TLPA there. His name is Rosine Brock. Brock Rosine. He's was selected as one of only two taxicab companies in the country that were elected for Company of the Year for the United States. So, welcome. Okay, now, is this about introductions or about the issue at hand?
My question is about the tag members.
Okay, then let's start in the back. Go ahead.
Mr. Moore, as I know you, the director of PT Audit, I would like you, for the record, give us the background of the people at the tag, who they represent.
Excuse me, your name, please.
My name is Raymond Francois. I'm from New Vision Taxi Drivers Association.
Thank you.
Because I saw some face since 2002, they still. Since we're talking about sunshine law, I would like to know why they're there.
That isn't the item on the agenda at this meeting. That's an item that can be put on the agenda, but it's not on the agenda for today.
Well, they say tag meeting. What tag mean?
Solely to discuss two items.
Yes, did you hear?
I don't hear because I would like to know more about the tag.
Okay.
This meeting was actually called for as a special meeting to discuss the two items that it's going to be heard on, well, this along with the other two items for the committee of the whole. The commission wanted to get input from the TAG and as well as the industry regarding these two items, and that's the reason why. When we sent out the meeting notice, we were very specific on stating the fact that it was these two items that was going to be discussed. And there was a link on the two items so that you had an opportunity to read what those draft ordinances were about. So again, that's the reason why we wanted to make sure that the board hears from the industry as well as the TAG representatives regarding these two pieces of legislation that's going to go to a public hearing on September 24th.
Mr. Moore, I spoke to so many elected officials, which is the commissioner, who give you the power to form the tag.
I'm sorry?
I spoke to many commissioners who give you the power to form the tag.
Oh, wow.
But I
Form the TAG?
yeah,
The
there's
tag is from the actual ordinance itself. It's a mandate by the ordinance itself.
who vote the tag, who vote that ordinance?
I'm sorry?
Who voted?
Who created the ordinance?
Yeah.
This was back in 1998, back when the Board of County Commissioners did the reform.
How come they don't know how you form that tag, but you have Mr. Les Azambet, Diego Feliciano, and all they're there since 2002. How come they don't know about it? You misinform them about the tag.
The law, correct me if I'm wrong, but Government in the Sunshine requires publication of the issues we're going to talk about in advance. And issues cannot be brought in that haven't been advertised so that people who have an interest in it can come in and talk. The issue that you are wish to talk about is an important one, and there's no reason for you not to talk about it. It's just not in this meeting today because it wasn't published.
All right, this is the government building. Those people, they are taxpayers like me. They cannot come in there to do meeting anytime they want and then take decision on behalf of the drivers.
There are laws, the ordinance is the law, there are legal ways to do it. Public cannot come into a public meeting and say anything at any time. It has to be done in an organized legal way, that's all I'm saying.
All right, since you are the chairman of the TAG, don't forget the TAG has some rules and regulations which is prohibited those people to be on the TAG.
Mr. Chair, the question is the legitimacy of TAG members. And I'm not the Sunshine Law expert, but I as a board member would like for that clarification to be on the record because we're about to deliberate on some critical issues. And it doesn't have to be with the input of the audience, but I think, what is, I think it's a legitimate issue. So I as a board member would just like to clarify for the record, what is, because frankly, I'm not particularly familiar, I'm proud to serve on the TAG, I'm relatively new, but I think it's a legitimate issue, and
I'd like to speak to that. Do you know why you're on the tag?
my question is not for you, it's for staff to explain to me what are the rules for being appointed to the TAG. No, I know, but I'm turning to staff to just whoever, it's a very simple question. So,
Before we get to the answer, again, the time here is limited. And if we're gonna waste time going over something that's not on the agenda, I don't think we should discuss it right now. That's simple.
The question is very simple. Why are you still on the TAG? That's the question. Why are you still on the TAG?
Yes.
You're allowed to bring anything you want to up here, that's fine. But you know what? This is the wrong meeting, Rolando. You know their phone number, and you know how to reach them, just like everybody else here. If you want to discuss this here today, you should have brought it up, not now, because it's impolite to us.
When you go to the newspaper, you talk on behalf of everybody.
I don't want to discuss for an hour what I didn't come here to discuss.
No, I want to know why you're
With all
there.
due respect, you should have called them and asked them to do this. You know, put it on the agenda. Otherwise, it's an off subject, I'm not worth the crowd, I'm not gonna get on it. No? I just won't discuss it.
They have to be here.
You just got a hostage.
They have to be in.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. Chapter 31,
This is one of those public records.
3182 describes the TAG committee and how it's composed, and with some description of composure. Then there are TAG rules, and I don't know if you have the rules with you, but I doubt
I don't have any.
And there are rules that were voted on when it was conceived and then subsequently modified since Chapter 31. That's how the TAG came about, and that's why we're all here today.
Anytime your time comes to go out, you change the rule by yourself to stay here.
Yes.
You change the rule by yourself so you can be a member. We cannot accept that.
Yes.
We cannot accept that. Anytime your time comes to out, you change it so you can be a member.
You can stay there.
And then take decision on behalf of 99% of the drivers. We cannot accept that. And you can change the tax policy, but you cannot change the constitution.
Okay, my name is Santiago Gil. I'm a taxi driver since 1978. It's been more than 6 years that they don't raise the price of the taxi. When they had it, it was $350 for the lease. Now the lease is over $500, and we still gotta pay that. Nobody knows about it, and now they don't even want. If they don't touch the credit card, and then we lose more money. Explain that to me how that is fair.
We're about to talk about that.
Well, as a matter of fact, let's have something. You work every code in the taxi, but you cannot give advice to the country.
We may need a sergeant of
You work
arms.
every code in the taxi. You cannot give advice. We don't need your advice.
2 minutes. Excuse me. You were going to address the question that was raised? Or should we move on?
I want you to put me in the record.
All right.
I be on the
We're
record.
talking about Commissioner Moss's ordinance that Joe raised. Does anybody wish to talk?
I just spoke to Commissioner Moss. Hey, let him talk.
You got to talk first.
settlement. I have a copy in my desk from later on.
Well, I just come in,
That
I've been
allows
working
people
for
to
a
use
Excuse me, show the man some respect, he has the floor, let us listen to him. Go ahead.
So that's something that basically allows people to state credit card. There was a recent settlement on a lawsuit. In that settlement, basically, the two credit card company, I think is MasterCard and Visa card, they agreed to refund the people who take credit card, those companies that accept the credit card for the fee, what they cost. The cost in the taxi industry is basically consists of a data package which you have to buy with the smartphone companies, for example, and similar charges. Plus, whatever the cost is, they allowed as a convenient fee to pass on to the consumer. That was the result of it. So I wanted to bring this up so you guys know, whatever the resolution makes at the end of it, that this is already being done.
Yes.
I'm with Taxicab. My dad has Taxicab. You want to look?
Me,
My name is John Valdez, of Papa. I'm with Taxicab. My dad has Taxicab. Taxicab is what you call a merchant bank commission. They do charge what you call a fee. At first, there was a proof. Now they're backtracking and saying that otherwise, it's supposed to be. Cabs already have it free on already, should already be grandfathered in. But either which way, what they want to do, what Les and Zapata wants to do, is make two different fares. One for cash, one for credit. What's the difference of charging a fee?
Not allowed under the state law.
So that's what they want to do. They want to charge on the meter, if you pay cash, you get a discount, if you pay credit card, you pay legal price. Wasn't that the way you explained it? No different price, it's a meter increase. Really early.
when he's finished his.
Asking me, state, here's what we have been told by the county attorney, the lawyers. The lawyers say that it is illegal to charge a fee for the use of a credit card. You can discount the fare, which means the way the Zapata ordinance is written, Commissioner Zapata is going to require a credit card machine in every taxi cab. And the way it's written, it starts with the airport. Starting with the airport, that happens to be the way it happens to be written. But what he has done so that the drivers don't have to put money out of their pocket, it calls for the mayor within 150 days of the second reading of the ordinance to come back with an increase in the fare specifically to underwrite the cost of all that equipment and the charges which currently, like on Miami Beach, currently would adhere to the driver would pay nothing. And what would happen is, at the end of the day, with that ordinance, this is just an example, I know you can't see it, but this is the taxi magic model. At the end of the ride, on the pin in the back seat, the customer would see a picture of a credit card and a picture of cash. And the fare would be increased for the credit card. I mean, he would pay what's on the meter, so if he pushed this button right here, he would strike his credit card and no cost to the taxi driver or anybody else. If he pushes this button right here, then he would have no choice but to give the taxi driver the cash, which is referenced right here on the device. So at no cost to the driver, this would happen because the mayor would come back within 150 days and increase the meter ever so slightly to underwrite the cost of that.
But it's the same.
Yes, it is, but here's the difference. I know it's semantics. State law, and I wish it were different. I really do. I wish it were different. State law prohibits taxi cab drivers or taxi cab industry throughout the entire state, it's not just here, for charging a convenience fee. I know we see it when we go to pay our Florida Power light bill. but specifically for taxi cabs, it's prohibited. Now, on November the 1st, we met with the vice mayor, and there was a movement afoot by the mayor's office to change the state law, but it was never, that was on November the 1st of 2012. Mario Goddard, myself, Jerry Moskowitz, and others met with him, and there was a movement to do a convenience fee, but it never worked out because there was no follow-through. So now we're down to Mr. Commissioner Zapata's ordinance, which in my opinion is well thought out. Because let's think of the opposite. If the mayor passes this ambassador ordinance, here's what we're in for, the way it's written right now. There's no cost. There's no way to pay for that equipment. That means the drivers are going to end up being done 5% for every credit card usage. And for an industry that hasn't had a fare increase since December of 2005, I think that is outrageous, personally. There is no way right now under the ambassador ordinance, which is unreasonable on that aspect, to pay for this hardware. The only way is the POTUS ordinance, so that taxi drivers are not relegated to have to pay a dime. And furthermore, not have to pay for the maintenance of the equipment, not just a dime for the equipment, not the installation of the equipment, not the reinstallation of the equipment, or anything else. And not even the paper in the machine that prints the receipt.
Still, being in 104 other cabs, 105 cabs.
Right.
Right
Tell me how
now,
it happened.
they charge
Special
driver
letter.
for each transaction they make on
Special
credit card,
letter.
right?
Being in 104 other cabs,
Right.
which has taxi cabs. Now we fall to the point that we have to pay for get system out of a cab, is that we have to pay for it.
Not if the
After it was approved and it was allowed for it to happen.
Okay, you mean you're saying to me that if the Zapata ordinance passes, you will have to pay? No. Mr. Verifone, are you here? Verifone, Jeff, how are you?
I'm the second time, yes.
Jeff, for the existing taxis that are in that trial program, which started whenever, do these drivers, when the ordinance passes and when the mayor does it, will these drivers have to pay for the software change? The hardware, I don't think will change, because they're using your hardware, right? They're using
I'm not sure what he
Yeah,
has.
they're using taxi
There
pass.
was-
They're using
There
your
was
hardware.
taxi pass
Taxi
hardware
man,
that
they're
was
using
there.
Verifone hardware. Will they have to pay any money?
And we are updating that and changing it over.
At no charge to the
Right, based on time frame, with everything.
Yeah, they talk.
No charge.
That's something not accurate, Mr. Les.
You're not recognized.
No, because you don't want to take people from here. Your company, which is Yellow Cab, Central Cab, right now you charge the driver for each transaction they make on credit card. That's why you for the credit card? Because you're going to make more money on behalf of the driver? That's the same thing you say to the commissioner. Central Cab, your company, Miami Spring,
It's my turn
Super
to
Yellow,
talk, sir.
you charge the driver for the actual credit card now. And then you want them to the credit card so you can make more money? No way. No way. That's the reason why you for it?
Raymond, I'm surprised.
I suppose not the truth because you don't say the truth. You don't say the truth.
Misunderstood.
That's the reason why you lie to every commissioner.
It's
Then
enough.
the driver not going to pay anything.
Enough is enough.
Enough.
There, again, what Les didn't add and just added at the end, again, we made sure when we talked to Commissioner Zapata that no fee, no fees would be charged to the
No, you have to
driver.
say the truth. You have to say
No
the truth.
fees.
No, you have
It's in the
you are
ordinance.
99% of the driver in the family.
No
We do
fees
not accept that
are
anymore.
charged to the driver for the
We are
equipment.
not going to accept that anymore. We are
for
not going to
installing
accept that
the
anymore.
equipment and updating the equipment. For updating the equipment, if you have it, it'll be free for you to be updated.
Yes. I don't want to forget part of what's going on here. What's, as far as they're saying that you're not going to pay the fees, you're going to pay for the equipment, installation, and maintenance. There's another part here that we always try to put our client. That's the public.
You know, these people that pay $20 to go to a laundromat or something for a taxi cab ride, and don't own a charge card, and don't own a smartphone, and don't own an app, they're not going to pay for charge card. To them, the discount is going to go back to their cash price. All the cities have done this across the board. Everybody pays, whether you ride with a charge card or not. Everybody pays. In this discount model, the person paying cash is not going to pay for that fee. Added to that convenience, that the driver is going, if he doesn't have an account, will have a cash card where the money will go to. So, you know, even the notion of drivers that may not have a bank account was thought of. This was thought about in the best interest of both the public first, and second, that our industry did not foot the bill for this equipment. Thank you.
There have been two challenges to the constitution of the tag. I'd like an explanation as to why that Mr. Eisenberg and Mr. Feliciano haven't violated their term limits.
We weren't here earlier when we voted to give everybody the time to speak, and that it would be speaking on the item that we are addressing.
Mr. Ie, who is a member of the TAG, has questioned the same thing I'm questioning, which is, are these two individuals legitimately serving on the TAG? They're in violation of term limits.
Even him too.
Even Jerry too.
Jerry too is in violation of the term limit also.
Yes. They should be out.
Today, enough is enough.
Yes.
Enough is enough today. It's enough.
Yes.
We're not going to
Well, you cannot discuss them with those people. They are the one who make them discuss
I'm saying that these proceedings are illegitimate because
yes.
Two members serving who are in violation of the term limits.
Excuse me. I've had a suggestion, and I think it makes sense, that if the audience cannot follow the rules that the TAG put out at the beginning of the meeting, we will shut the discussion.
You don't have any rules because your member, they're not legitimate. Yes. When you're not legal, you don't have any rules. There is no rules.
Out of turn, the audience will not be permitted to speak today at all. It will just
you
be the TAG.
illegal on the TAG because you don't respect the rules. There is no rule today. There is no rules. This is not a private property for anybody. We want the government to go by the rules. Yes.
How does the TAG want to proceed with the audience? Do we wish to shut them out of discussion completely today, or are we willing to give...
We want the government to go by the rules.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, my question was simply to get on the record that this TAG, and I've been assured by staff, is operating under the established rules. That answer has satisfied me, because I'm depending on staff for that recommendation, and their attorney is to their right. Beyond that, I'm prepared to discuss the MOS ordinance, which is, we have, I think, 4 to get through, and I think the MOS ordinance, which my question is, on the MOS ordinance specifically, would this, if this passed as you understand it, what impact does that have?
He's a son of a taxi company.
Forgetting about all the other 3 ordinances, if this stood on its own, and if this passed as is, does this outlaw taxicab, as you understand it?
Well, that's a state law issue in terms of whether or not they can operate, but that right there, in terms of our countywide, yes, it would also mean that if you were violating that state law, we have adopted what the state law has in that ordinance. So it does adopt the state law.
So as a result, taxicabs could no longer operate in this community?
If they are violating state law right now, they shouldn't. But this would give the county the power to also regulate that all as well.
My understanding, correct me, people here who know more about this, my understanding is that the taxi pass company would continue to operate, but would do so changing the structure of how they operate. Is that correct?
Maybe similar to what? Okay.
If I may. 2 things. The first one is, if I remember correctly, TaxiPass was started as a pilot program when we were considering how to address the situation with the credit card. It is not in accordance as it operates, the surcharge is not in accordance with state law. And so what turned out to be a pilot program that possibly could have been adopted had there been a change was not. So at this point, it's whether TaxiPass changes its structure so that That's number one. And number two, to the point of these gentlemen and lady, there's a meeting that's gonna happen today. And there's an agenda that's gonna address certain things. It is